Hi, and welcome to today's book chat. Today I'm speaking to you about the book Room by Emma Donoghue. So, just to preface it, I actually listened to this book instead of read it, which really affected my experience, I think. The book was narrated by a 5-year-old boy, and the actor, whether he was actually a young boy or not, he sounded like one, which I think really affected my experience of listening to this book. So, just to give you a little bit of an idea of the story without giving you too much, because I think even the description of the book really gave away too much, it follows the story of Jack, a 5-year-old boy, as I said, who has spent his whole life up to the point of the novel opening in a room, living with his mother and getting visited by Old Nick. And so I won't give you any more information than that about the actual storyline. So this book was really interesting. It was a concept that I'd not really experienced before. I don't think I've ever read a book that was narrated by a character who was so young, or at least consistently narrated by a character who is so young. Generally, if that happens, it's more the idea that the character is reflecting on his childhood, whereas this was not the case at all. And Emma Donoghue did an absolutely amazing job of narrating this 5-year-old boy. He was so believable, and you really care about him. And I don't know how much the experience of hearing this child's voice impacted me for that, but he just seemed so real. His understanding of the world, and his world of the world at large, his interactions with his mother, the way he thought, the way he felt, it seemed incredibly authentic. And I think that experience alone is maybe even worth it to read this book. Um, Again, without giving too much of the story, without going too deeply into it, think of the idea of the cave and shadows on the wall. And if you know what I'm talking about, that will give you a little bit more in depth of the experience of reading this book, um, and what the experience would have been like for the narrator. So, in general, the pace of this book was something that was a little interesting for me. In the beginning, I was incredibly interested, kind of seeing what was happening, trying to understand as the story unfolded. Then my interest petered off quite a bit. And then it really ramped up again, and I was completely involved. So, to emphasize that point, I usually listen to audiobooks when I'm cooking or cleaning or maybe going for a walk. And whenever that activity that I'm working on is done, I will pause the book and go back to it later. But as we got closer to the climax and really ramping up to the story, it gripped me so much that I actually just sat on my couch and listened for over an hour, which I don't think I've ever done with an audiobook before. But then after that, probably the last third of the book really petered off for me again, and I'm not sure whether that was entirely necessary for such a long time to be spent kind of in what could be called the denouement. And maybe the author would just disagree with me. Maybe she would feel that that section of the book was equally as important to the characters and their experience. And maybe it was. I'm not sure. But after being so pulled in and so gripped, it really felt kind of anticlimactic for me. But I still don't in any way regret reading the book, and it doesn't affect my recommendation to you to give this book a try. And perhaps that anticlimactic experience was necessary, um, just to show more the experience of the characters and how, again, without giving too much away, of how their life and their situation changed might have felt anticlimactic in some ways. That sometimes what we think we want and maybe what we really do want isn't as wonderful or as amazing or as vast as we expect it to be. So, this story again is Room by Emma Donoghue. And if you want to get some links to the author's websites where you can find the book, you can head over to my website, charlenecarr.com, and get your information. And if you read the book and you like it, you don't like it, you want to chat about it, come back on over, leave some comments underneath this video or right underneath the comments on my website. I'd love to hear from you. It's definitely a book that could prompt a lot of discussions, And if you read it, I hope you're engaged. I hope you enjoy. And it would be interesting to see whether you thought the ending went a little too far, not too far, but too, I guess, drawn out as well, or whether you think it was just right. So have a great day.